Welcome to Tyler's Bathtime Outpourings. This is Tyler coming at you from my bath. Epsom salts, baking soda, essential oils, etc. Effectively a ceremonial bath, and I myself am a ceremonialist. It's a weird name, I know, but what it really just means is I hold safe and sacred space for myself and for others. And most of the time that's in my bath, but also I do cacao ceremonies, I facilitate breathwork, I'm a yoga and meditation teacher as well, and energy healer. So this space, this idea came to me because I was taking baths on my own and decided to start recording them because I started to realize that whenever it is about my baths, whenever I drop in into my body, and that opens some channels, so to speak. Really just feels like a flow of wisdom and life experience from my own personal journey, which, because it is from my own lens, I ask you to take what you need and leave the rest. So this is not a self-help, this is not a guidance towards you becoming a better person. I truly believe that's a personal journey that everyone has to find on their own. That being said, you can pick up, and I myself pick up, lots of little chunks of wisdom and experience and help along the way, and it is my true and sincere hope that this can be that for you in some way. But I appreciate you for being here and being present with me. Namaste.
There is a relevant future. And we're talking about being present, especially in the context of meditation. There is a relevant future. So a lot of times meditation teachers will talk about how many of us, if not all of us, let's get real, right? Like, this is the world. It's very easy, quite easy, without practice, to slip into the future in our energy, in our mind, in our focus, rather. I think the most accurate way to say this is focus. You can say it any way you want that makes sense. To me, I feel like, where is your focus? And that's where you're at. If your focus is on anticipation, waiting on something to happen, even if that's joyful, or it could be very anxiety inducing, and it could be any positive, negative, but just the future, right? In general. So, like, as with just about anything, there's what I would consider fine-tune adjustments to all concepts, and that in this case extends to the future. So it's just thinking about the relevant future. So I think that a lot of times the connotation, especially in meditation or presence or mindfulness, can be that if we're anywhere besides the present, that's bad. But that's actually a very big misunderstanding. It's not bad, it's just, it's part of the practice. So if you're playing a sports game, like if you're playing soccer and you go for a goal, you kick it and it misses, right? Do you just quit right there? Do you just say, wow, I suck, I'm done, that was bad, and stop? No. That's an option, and I know some people do, sure. But if you're really a player, if you're really in it, if you're really devoted to what it is, right, to the mastery of something, to just the exploration, even not necessarily even the mastery, just the exploration of growing yourself, and you keep going, you take it on the chin, if it's hard, that means your ego is still working some shit out. That's normal, that's natural, that's part of the human
condition, part of the human, I'm going to say condition, process. It's part of the process of being a human. So what you do is you keep going. You say, oh, I didn't score a goal. Let's keep playing. You turn around. You get ready for the next kickoff. I'm not a soccer player. I don't know how that works. I played football. So kickoff, soccer ball, kick, throw thing, reset. We'll just say reset. How about that? Ignorance. That's going to upset a few people who are big soccer fans. This is what it is. So the metaphor stands regardless, right? So back to meditation. If you say slip into the future and you notice, suddenly you realize in the middle of the practice, some point, oh shit, I'm thinking about the thing I'm supposed to do later today, or errands that I have to run, or food that I have to get, or literally anything in the future. There's that, like I said, tendency to notice that, and then there's like all this guilt, shame, judgment that we project onto ourselves, like kind of inward, backwards onto ourselves, and it literally pushes our progress backwards. And also, that's part of the process too. So if you're on the soccer field and you're like, I suck, I quit, missed one goal, start walking away, someone could yell out to you, hey, don't stop, it's okay, keep going, this, that, the other. And the metaphor extends into real life in the form of a literal person. It could be an actual person in your life who is a positive force, or like, let's say, a motivational force. And it can come in a lot of different forms. Sometimes there are positive motivational forces in our lives in the disguise of something shitty or bad, like a coach or a parent who's like a little harsh, but not too harsh, like they're just pressy, rather. We'll say that. Anyway, shooting off examples here. So it's an opportunity, an option. We always have the opportunity, always, to return to the practice. You could have walked off the field, gone back home, left the country. Like, soccer is dead to me. I'm walking away forever. And you do that for like a week, month, year, 10 years, whatever. It doesn't really matter. If you come back to it, that time that you weren't in the practice was also the practice. It's the practice, because the practice is infinite. It doesn't stop. Because we're working with our mind here. We're working with our energy. And that doesn't stop. When we're asleep, it doesn't stop. When we're awake, it doesn't stop. When we're closing our eyes, it doesn't stop. It keeps going. Now, when we're asleep, it's a little different, mind you. The dream state is significantly different than the awake, conscious state. However, we do keep using and projecting our energy, whether we know it or not. And, dreams. There you go. There that is. So, back to the initial phrase, the relevant future. So, in the practice of returning to the present, right? If that's the goal, is to be fully in here and now. Ram Dass said, be here now. And it just became like this massive movement and phrase and saying, like, you probably heard it before from somebody. And if not, I'm surprised, but it's still like it's a thing. Be here now. And it started long before Ram Dass. He just was the famous coiner of it becoming big and popular and all that. But be here now is important, because what can often happen is when we project into the future, it's very common to fret, to get a little afraid or scared or anxious or nervous about what could happen or what should, even worse, what should happen. Oh, fuck. Should. Oof. Beware the shoulds. Don't shoot all over yourself. Seriously, I'm not going to take credit for that. That was a yoga teacher of mine in training who said that. She was also one of the few yoga teachers who cussed regularly. Like, and I don't know, I just like, I resonated with that deeply. I was like, this isn't negative. This is just expression and unbridled passion, you know? That's what it was in that case. I mean, some people can cuss and it does have the energy of hate or negativity, whatever. Anyway, relevant future. So what I mean by the relevant future, if we're going back to the example of be here now, there are times in the practice, in the traditional practice of coming to the present, where something will come up, something will bubble to the surface, it will be felt emotionally, it will be seen, visually, heard, or some kind of synchronicity may occur, like the one moment you would decide to open your eyes during the meditation and you see something that just shifts you, whatever that may be. I mean, for me, often it's nature. I'll see like the moment I open my eyes, the window will be empty, and then a cardinal will fly right up to it and then right back away. Like just for the moment that I open my eyes, or a number or person, something. Anyway, my point is, and it's gonna happen with your eyes closed often, we get even subtle cues, subtle hints from our energy field, because this isn't just our mind, this is our energy field, and everything, past, present, future, beyond those dimensions of time, of 4D time, because time is four-dimensional, that's a whole other subject for another time. Beyond just the fourth and into the higher dimensions, it's effectively like your higher self, some kind of guidance that's saying, hey, this. And so when I say relevant future, I mean like visions of your future. Like in the Bible and in pretty much every spiritual text, there's some form of prophet or soothsayer, in some cultures it's called, or sadhu. Is it sadhu in India? I can't remember. But anyway, every culture has its version of this person who can see, the seer. They see into the future. Maybe not all the time, but many times in old days they became revered, and that was like people made that their job because they were the ones that could do that. But in the 21st century, it doesn't work that way right now. How culture is, it's at least not predominantly. Maybe there's like little microcosms of culture, like tiny little self-led towns, places where people still do that, or tribes in tribal places, right? Where people still use the medicine man, the shaman, the seers, and that's like their whole job, or one of their whole jobs. Anyway, so what I mean to say, this is effectively a sort of I always say asterisk. I start with that, and then I figure it out what the word is here. Or we'll just say a reminder. A reminder that when you're meditating, when you're practicing presence, being here and now, still do that. But don't do it so intensely and like vigorously that you miss out on visions or something about your relevant future. This can also, I think visions are maybe less common. This more often, I think, comes in the form of feelings. A lot of times there's like a feeling that could bubble to the surface and maybe a memory attached to it, like a past memory. Could even be past life or this life, but we're not going to go into past life because we're just going to keep it a little simple here, just three-dimensional, this lifetime, right? So deep breath.
Ooh, because we can. Because we have the option. See, there it is. There's the practice. The opportunity is infinitely represented to us. To breathe, to be here, to be present. The issue that a lot of people have is that if they have zero practice of being present, or extremely little practice of being present in some form or fashion, like, let's just, I'm not going to say how many people do or don't, I don't know. But it sure seems like a lot of people have a hard time being present, if you just observe reality not reality. I'll say just the world of energy that you physically see. And I'm not talking about assumptions based on what you've seen after the fact. I'm talking about what you're physically, literally observing in the moment. Because our brain likes to draw conclusions about things after we've collected information up to a certain point about a person of a certain skin color or type of person, personality, gender, type of sexuality, political stance, XYZ, right? Doesn't matter. Matters, but for the example. So what I mean to say is all that happens afterwards. That's not something that we are supposed to, we'll just say allowed. We're allowed to observe and not judge. We're allowed to observe and not draw a conclusion. I'm not saying you shouldn't, because there's that should, right? Or shouldn't. Either way. It's a trap. Kudos to those of you who get that reference. So it's really about being present and observing and learning, like, over time, learning patience and compassion with yourself. Like, this is a game. Just like we'll go back to football, or soccer. We'll say soccer. Football in most other countries, but soccer, right, in America. We'll go back to that example. Like, it still happens whether you quit or not. It keeps going. It doesn't stop. And you get to choose whether to be there or not. You pick where you're at. And more specifically, where your focus is. So treat it like a game, like let it, and I don't mean like a game like it doesn't have value or meaning or isn't important. That gets easily misconstrued and misunderstood when people say that. What I mean is a game that you're playing with passion and fire and intention. A game you're putting your energy into, but not so much that when you fuck up, you're like, explosion, I suck, this sucks, you suck, I'm out. Like, rather, a game, but that's gonna happen. That's okay. Life does that. I get pissed off. I still do it. Especially in traffic, I've gotten way better. But, I still do it. I still am like, oh, shit. Like, it used to be like a full cuss out, like cussing, like calling them a name. Now it's like, for me, and this is over like decades, so do not compare yourself to me. Please resist the urge to compare your progress to anyone. And I, a lot of times now, noticed that I'll just, sometimes I'll cuss, but it'll be just not directed at the person or even the car the person is in, because sometimes we like forget there's a human in the car and it's not just a car. Think about that for a second, right? And especially if they're in front of us because we can't see their face, like, oh man. Or if they're behind us and we can't make out their face, and even if we can, it's just like we dehumanize people sometimes, and it just happens. I'm not saying that's wrong. None of this is wrong or right. Like, this isn't about blame. More than anything, this is about presence, observation, learning. if we categorize things as right and wrong, we're more likely to say, this is a bad thing, I want to avoid that thing. And, oh, this is a good thing, I want to have more of that thing. That can lead to so many things. A lot of suffering, we'll just say that. And, again, part of the human process, it's not bad if that happens. What I mean to say is, I think the way I would categorize that, or that I understand it, is if we're observing. I lost my train of thought. Time out. Deep breath. Just gonna take a little pause break here. I invite you to breathe with me. If that's frustrating, that you're oh, that was such a good thought, I'm gonna hear the next thing, I understand. I feel that for myself right now. But just observe it and start breathing and let it go if you can. That's another thing. That's what Be Here Now is. Letting go of attachments. Oh yeah, that was the point I was making. If we see, there it is. Look at that. If you just trust, pause, breathe, it'll come back, man. It might not come back right away. It might not even come back that day, week, or year. But it'll come back when it needs to, when it's relevant. Anyway. Whoop. Before we get, again, off track, we get attached. Or we can get attached. It's an option. Just, we don't always know we have that option, that we have the choice, whether we're attached or not. And more often than not, we're not really, we don't feel like we have the choice. And I've heard people tell me that in the past when I wasn't where I am now. And I was internally in my mind, well, fuck you though. I can't not be attached to this person that I love, or this thing that I do that I love, or XYZ, the things that matter to me. It's we personalize the things that we attach to. And when those things are threatened to vanish from our lives, or vanish from our lives, we freak the fuck out. And again, I'm not saying that's bad. Oh man. You're starting to get the picture here? None of it's bad. It's just the practice, if you choose to let it be. It's just that a lot of people don't realize it is that's an option. That's an option that you can learn from this and learn to let go of attachments. Learn to let go of what should be, or needs to be, or has to be, or could be, even in softer, even could be. Now, let me pause on the could be part. There's nothing wrong with envisioning a future for ourselves, something positive. This is manifestation. But the trick is, I'm not even going to say trick. Everyone says trick, and it makes it sound impossible or hard. It's not really. It just depends on the person. It can be, but like anything else, it just depends, right? For some people, they get it real quick. Some people, they don't, and that's okay. But manifestation is more you feel into what could be, and you say, wow, I like that. And you release it into the river of the universe. I'm just giving an example. You could have millions of different ways to do this. You could also do this physically. Some people literally make a practice out of it where they take, write down on a journal. And I'm not advocating for this because it's littering, but you write your intentions in a journal and you throw it in the river and let it wash away. And it's not to say we're never going to have those things. It's to say we're going to let the universe carry us to those things. We're letting those things get out ahead of us to be prepared for us to meet back up with as we let ourselves ride down the river. Oh, shit. Whoa. I don't know if that hit anyone like it did me, but holy shit, man. Wow. Oh, that hit me. Let that one sink in for a bit. Let's just take another pause. Like, in through the nose, breathe all the way up from the belly. Hold for just a brief moment at the top. Let it go through the mouth, side out. Let yourself relax. Let those muscles soften. Deep breath in. Gentle deep breath. Gentle deep breath. All the way up. Let it go. Without forcing it, let it just flow out. All the way out there. All the way up. One more time. Full, super deep breath into the nose. As long as you need. Hold a brief moment. Let the shoulders drop. Side out. Let it go. Oh, yeah. Breathe it all out. Let your breath normalize. Be in this. We've altered our state, our brain waves, through our breath, because that's what it does. That's what happens when we breathe intentionally, deeply. And there are like infinite different permeations of that, different versions of that, if you will. Different breath works, different breathing. I mean, you can literally just practice and experiment on your own and probably come across something that feels good. But the key, really, I mean, for most breath works is at least one. Well, I'm just going to say 3. At least 3 deep breaths. Slow, patient, unrushed, relaxed. 3 deep breaths. Anytime. It can reset your whole day. It can help you just slide into a new present moment, a new present for yourself, a new be here now. Because our nows are continuously changing. Like the now I was talking about earlier, that's not now anymore. It's past. So, relevant future. Letting ourselves feel into the future. And when we start to get in our head about it and we start to feel like it's just it's starting to feel like our mind, our head, churning away at ideas, thoughts, expectations. Like, and you can notice this difference between thought and feeling and heart. It takes time. We reel it back. We pull back from our mind, take our focus back into our body through the breath. Reel it back to the present. It's like fishing. Oh, there's another example. I mean, that might resonate better for someone. It actually is a lot like fishing. We cast our line. Our thoughts become the cast. And it may go super far, it may go a little far. But there's an intention. There's a reason for it being cast. But sometimes the line, and this might not track as well, but just imagine that the line casts itself, like the person behind the rod, like let's just say they let it sit in the water without actually casting it, with the line loose, and the current just kind of pulls it out, pulls the line out, we'll say, the bobber, just for example, because you can see the bobber on the top. That's our focus. The current is like our thoughts and like just continuous thinking and continuous brain movement, mind movement. Well, we can, with practice, learn to observe that the line, like maybe we start to fall asleep, fishing. That can happen. It happens for me. And then you're like, oh, the line's super far out. So you reel it in. That's what you do. You reel it in. Because by then, you probably lost your worm or your bait or whatever it is. Or you just reset it just because. I mean, that's just a thing. If you fish, you understand this. If you don't, just, do your best here. But it really is like that too.
that's actually probably an easier visualization, even. Because I think the soccer visualization is more about our emotions getting involved, our ego getting involved, and then the fishing rod metaphor is more like just kind of the very mundane, three-dimensional, like earth plane, like reality of how it works, really. Like it's just kind of like just how it works, how our focus works. So what happens when it's all the way out? Sometimes we can observe, maybe we take a moment before we just reel it in out of reflex to observe how far it's gotten. Maybe once we start observing it, we notice a bobber going down and up, something's biting it. Or we have just a vibe about it. Or maybe we have a feeling to leave it there. Who knows? Maybe something could happen. But the point is observation, right? And then we feel ready, we reel it back in, start over. That's meditation. That's mindfulness. That's just presence. It's not even meditation. Meditation is just the formal practice of present moment living, being present. And it's like all words, it's given labels and undertones and expectations. So it's more than just what you think it is. It's everything. It's all things. It's just focus. It's just our energy. And then where our focus is, our energy is. So like example of that, just for funsies, we can also project our energy through our focus at people. So say we're just like at a coffee shop, right? And we're getting coffee or a drink, whatever. And you're like shooting shit or just, randomly talking with the barista or baristas or people just at the counter, whatever, just shooting the breeze. And one of them says something or does something, maybe not necessarily to you or at you, but just in general that, maybe might rub you the wrong way a little bit. And you're like, And suddenly, a lot of this times this happens unconsciously for people who don't, practice presence and mindfulness and energy. But even people who do, look, again, this is not me on a high horse. I fuck up. No, cancel. It's not about fucking up. It's about being human. It happens, right? Forgiveness. All about forgiveness. Release guilt, release shame. My point. Let's say someone says something and you're like, what? In your mind, you're like, wow, what an asshole. And you project your focus onto them, maybe your eyes, and you look at them and suddenly you start to judge their every move and every aspect and every, everything you think that they are and do and believe, especially believe. You're like laser beam eyeing this person with your focus in a projection of negativity way, like anger or resentment or judgment, right? It usually has anger behind it or frustration or something like that. Okay, this is very real. It happens to the best of us. Seriously, it happens to the best people even. And it's just something that takes place sometimes, not all the time. And, what mindfulness and meditation can help us to do, just as an example, just like what could happen. It can teach us that, over time, it's not even about teaching us. We just learn to be present. It's more a state of being than an actual, skill. Because, at least in my mind, I tend to attribute skill to something that involves some form of physical action. Where this is different. This isn't a physical action as much as a shift of your focus and your energy. An intentional focus, intentional refocusing of your energy, of your focus. Like, what is your focus? Where is your focus? and what is the quality of your focus. Like in this example, you shift the person shifts their focus onto the person who said something shitty or came off as a dick or an asshole, whatever, to that person. It's all relative. So they shifted their focus to that person, and it became very strong and judgmental, and maybe angry, maybe frustrated, maybe they felt like they should feel ashamed of themselves. Any number of things can happen here, and this could be completely subconscious from the focuser's part, or it could be semi-conscious. Maybe they recognize that they did it, but they can't really stop it. That just happens, and then they feel bad about it after. I think that's where more people are at than not. I think that's where a general amount of people are. Because I think we tend to look at humans and generalize. I mean, everyone does. Let's be real. I do it. I try not to, just because it's like, you never know. But I think it's pretty common for people to recognize, like, oh, I just, basically just like judge the hell out of that person, or like projected anger. And maybe it was silent, maybe you never said anything. Maybe this person never said anything, maybe they got pissed off and judged the hell out of this person, but they didn't say anything. And they just walked away and carried it with them and continued to think about it. And that festers until we release it. I mean, that literally festers within us until we release the energy. For some people, and I mean this like I've done this in the past, it happens, it festers, it begins to fester, like it stays in us, the energy. It begins to fester, and it stays doing that until something or someone or something happens that comes along and releases the energy. And I don't really know how to give an example of that, though, with the release of energy, because that can take infinite forms. And maybe you just cry for no reason. Maybe you just, I'm just going to leave it there. Like, I think for most people, that's like the most common and effective just release of energy. Sometimes we cry and have no fucking idea why. And there's a lot or we try and think real hard about why, because our ego wants to know why, because it wants to have a reason why you're crying. There has to be a good reason for why you're crying, because just about all of us are taught, whether consciously or unconsciously, that crying is bad or not appropriate to do in public or around other people, or at all in some cases, in the worst cases, right? Any number of those things. And so that's an example of an energy release. And there are, we can do that intentionally too. We can, my version of that is the Ho'oponopono prayer of, it's traditionally Native Hawaiian. It's a prayer. And it goes, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I think I've talked about this before, but I mean, it can't hurt to remind you, or, maybe you never heard this before, but, it can never hurt. Things like that can never hurt to hear repeatedly, and that's kind of it. Like, again, practice, right? How do you practice? You repeat. You continuously do the thing. Mantra, chanting. Actually, in Hindu culture, Indian culture, there's a lot of, like, just about every chant, a lot of them, if not all of them, well, all the ones I know, are extremely positive and meant to be healing for yourself and others. Mantras, chants, all of it. So yeah, Ho'oponopono prayer is effectively one of those. But you don't have to call it any of that. You don't have to call it anything. It just is what it is, right? It's just a form of energy release. And this one in particular, we're going to go into this because I'm feeling guided to go deeper into this. Because this is very important. Has been important in my life. I've returned to this And we can even just say the energy of forgiveness, right? As in general. You can do it your own way, however you want. But I mean, it's spoken about in every religious and spiritual text ever, and multiple times. Forgiveness. How important it is. So, for a person like me, having a physical practice, a way to ground it into reality through words, through movement, so yoga, movement, some way to ground it into the physical reality helps so much, especially with the ego, because our ego wants to make sense of things. And all it is a trained animal. It's a trained animal. And for a lot of people, a lot of us, it just gets trained poorly or untrained. It doesn't get trained at all. And we just it just becomes what it is. It just kind of latches onto what it knows and what it can, which, good, bad, between, any number of things, right? But why not be intentional? Why not be intentional with our energy and with our words and our thoughts and our actions? Because when we do that, there's going to be more love, more light, more joy in our lives. Because holding on to anger, to frustration, to that harsh judgment energy, it's only going to cause pain. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, it's going to cause pain. And for some people, it can go any number of ways. It could go in, which usually is depression or addiction. Or it can go out in the form of rage, anger management situation, where people just become dicks towards other people, generally speaking. And everyone has their own way of, releasing energy and, or we'll say perpetuating energy. And it does perpetuate, it can, someone can hand us, let's say, okay, let's flip this. But before we do, we're going to take a deep breath. Whew. Oh, these are like commercials, but they're deep breaths. Can you imagine if on TV commercials were just, hey, we know you've been continually absorbing this thing. Now let's just pause for a minute and not absorb anything and just breathe, with a black screen, right? And just a voice. It's guiding you through some deep breaths. Oh, imagine that future. Oof. That may or may not resonate for you, but that's just a wild thought I just came up with. Anyway, deep breath. One more, just cause. Okay. Let's take a moment. So, let's reverse the scenario. I think I'm almost done with this whole thing. So let's reverse the scenario. The coffee shop scenario. Okay, we'll just sum up. Person in front of counter makes order. Someone behind the counter says or does something that triggers person making order. That person making the order observes the thing happening and concludes that it was shitty or lame or mean or bad in some way, and they start to judge that person. It just happens. They just judge and shake down with their energy that person. They shake them down. They suddenly they're judging them. They're like, oh, I wonder what their beliefs are. They're probably liberal. They're probably conservative. XYZ. No. Just an example. Let's not get into that. But so, right, that happens. Okay, laser beam eyes, focus of projection of anger, frustration, judgment, whatever, onto that person behind the counter. Okay, let's say, for funsies, that person meant what they said,
differently than how it was perceived. So, oh man, or I almost feel like we should come up with an actual example of what they said, I'm gonna let you use your imagination on this, okay? I think you can do it. I believe in you. Let's just say, we've all been misunderstood sometime, You probably got something in there. Let's just say they just, made a joke. And it was taken, I'm not gonna say the wrong way. It was just taken a negative way, a way that felt bad to the person hearing it. But the person who said it really did have the best intentions. They actually meant it from a place of love or a place of, intentionality, not of negativity or anger or, let's say, dark humor. So that's also fun. And so the person who is getting laser beam eyed, they're getting judged behind the counter, barista, whoever, who said the thing, they're going to feel that. And they might not know it. They might not know that they're feeling it. Let's just say this, their energy field will feel it. Now, there are a lot of people who won't feel it like in the sense that you actually feel something, like you become aware of it, we'll say. Some people will not be aware that they're feeling it, but the energy field is going to be affected. That person's energy field is going to be affected by the person projecting energy or anger, unless they have worked on themselves, worked on their energy. And let's say the person behind the counter who made the statement is extremely mindful and meditates frequently or something, just has some state of mindfulness and presence and non-judgment and forgiveness, and compassion. A lot of times, if someone is in that state of energy that's strong enough, that the negative energy, the judgment energy, can be deflected, not absorbed at all. Or in some cases, let's take the example into words. Let's say the person behind the counter, let's say there were words exchanged, okay? This is probably easier to understand. Let's say the person making the order was like, that was a shitty thing to say. We're just being blunt here for an example. A lot of people don't call other people out like that frequently in public. Not that I've seen, anyway. But just for an example, right? Let's just say they're like, that was a shitty thing to say. And the person behind the counter, the barista, is like, they breathe, take a moment, they reflect upon what was said, rather than just like split second, like, well, fuck you, or well, screw you, or whatever. Just like sending it back in just the same negative energy, creating like basically a ping pong match is how fights start, verbal or otherwise, or physical. What if that person behind the counter, they're mindful, they have compassion for themselves because they've been developing ways to release judgment about themselves and about others, and forgive themselves for things they've done that were less than ideal, and others. And they've worked through a lot of it, not all of it, because no one's perfect, but just enough to where they're like, I hear you. That's not what I meant, but I appreciate your feedback, something like that. Or even just, I don't even have to say, you don't have to explain, Could just be, I hear you. And that could be the end of it. And it's just, that's it. As an example, okay, like, I'm not telling you how to do things. Like, this isn't like, in that scenario, always do that. Like, I don't, who am I to say that I know exactly how to handle every situation? I don't, because they're all unique. And just to be fair, hypothetical scenarios are not a good thing to focus on to run your life by, because every moment that you're living your life, every present new moment is unique. It's going to be different than any scenario you could possibly play out in your head, no matter how meticulously. And this is, again, goes right back to what we're saying about casting our thoughts out in the future without intention, just like letting our brain just go into the future and think about all things and this and that, planning this, that, have to do this, should do that. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Wow. Wow. Here we are. In this present moment. Wherever you are, in this present moment, be there. I'm not going to say, I hope it's good. I'm not going to say, I hope it's bad. I'm not going to say, I hope it's anything. And there's nothing wrong with wishing people well. I'm not saying that's bad. I just want to shift. I just want to present an option, something a little different than out of the norm, a little against the grain here. I hope you're present. I hope, not even hope, just wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, hope you're there. Hope you're there intentionally. Hope you're there with intention. And if you're not, that's fine. It's okay. And remember, there's always the option. There's always the opportunity. Every moment that passes, every new moment, every single one, to be present again, to return to your breath, putting the focus into you. You. Starting there. Start with you. Start with your breath. Start with focusing on yourself or your presence. Within. Start within. Begin within. I have a friend who has a yoga studio named that. Begin within. It's true though. Seriously, it has to, I'm not going to say has to. Just begin within. It will serve you. I really strongly believe that. If it doesn't, okay. Sorry. But I'd be willing to bet that it will. It might be challenging. Might be challenging if you've never done it. I know it was for me when I started the journey of introspection, with intention and a little bit of guidance and practice, meditation, yoga. For me, that was my path. It was really challenging, and there were times where I thought, "Wow, this is bullshit. I don't want to do this. This actually sucks. Why would people do this?" That was just initial. That was the very beginning, the very, very beginning. And it was kind of my ego, I think. It was just that version of me, that part of me, it's change is bad. Fear of change. Because now we're feeling things that are hard or difficult, emotions that don't feel good to feel or, painful. But we got to feel all the things. It has to go that way. That's how it works. It's why we have emotions. They're meant to be felt and released. Just back to the coffee shop, holding that anger or judgment towards the person that isn't even what the person meant. But that person now holds anger because they thought they meant something else that was shitty, and they hold it. And it could wreck their life in some ways, like it could really harm them from within, especially if it builds up, and that's how things work. They tend to build in one direction, more of that energy begets more of that energy a lot of times. So it feels unnatural a lot of times to go in the opposite direction or in a different direction than what we have been going. And a lot of times, again, there's that part of our brain that steps in and is like, oh, this is different, bad. This is different, danger. This is different, beware. Don't do it. X, Y, Z. But it's not true. Keep going. Keep going. It's scary. It's hard. And my rule of thumb with, let's say, challenging emotions, or let's say just negative emotions, or just emotions that feel bad, or feelings, pain, whatever. First off, we got to use our intuition or discernment, make sure that it's not actually harmful for us to feel it, to be in it. 2, don't stay in it. Don't stay there. It's temporary. Everything's meant to be temporary. Some things, let's say, some things, especially grief, great example, we feel into it, we feel sad, we feel angry, we feel whatever, and that's one phase. And then we live our lives. And then it comes back, and we feel it again. But this time, it's different. Or maybe it's almost the same, but it's never always quite exactly the same. But even if it feels the same, we're still feeling it. And when we feel it, we're releasing it over time. It's like it's a process that's spotted throughout time. And that's one of the hardest ones, because a lot of times what we want to do is just get the shit out of the way. Get the thing that feels bad, the pain, the painful memory, the sadness, the anger. We want to just like, okay, feel it. Okay, we're done. We're not going to return to that. So, good and bad news for you there, for anyone who thinks that anyway. Sometimes it's not over. Sometimes you gotta feel it again. Or just a little differently. Like you still gotta feel things that aren't necessarily ideal. So, but, the good news is, if you learn ways to do this that are like guided, healing, safe, there's a lot of different ways to do this. Therapy, meditation, visualization techniques, Reiki healing, infinite things. You learn over time, and your ego starts to realize that, oh, we've done this a bunch of times, so it must not be that bad. It must not be as scary as we thought it was initially. And you start to adapt to the discomfort of feeling things, of your emotions and your feelings and whatever it is. And that's the healing journey. And it gets easier and easier, or at least we'll say it's not linear. Don't get me wrong here. It's not just a flat downhill or uphill, however you want to look at it. It's not just a flat easier over time. I mean, there's moments in life that are crazy ass challenging. But what I mean to say is, it's easier in the regards that you adapt to the process, and you learn new ways to keep going through the process and overcome challenges. This is it. This is the journey of life. So do it. Do the journey of life. Embrace the journey of life, the ups and downs, the hills, the mountains, the valleys, the swamps, like you get the metaphor, like the highs and the lows, the good, the bad, the good feeling, bad feeling. Like, that's all. Or don't. I mean, look, take what you need, leave the rest. That's about it. Thank you for listening.
as always. Much love, much love, much love. Peace.